Hey everyone, I'm Nathan and welcome to this series of tutorials for the main category of the speedrun. So it will be any percent white robe glitched. So this is the intro video where I will talk you through the main things to know before getting started with the run. These tutorials will be designed for new players who don't know much about the game, as well as more advanced players. In each video I will do one per level. I will try to start off with easy tips and routes, and then give more advanced techniques and stuff on the second half of the videos. Since the video might be rather long, I will put time codes at the bottom so you can click to the sections that interest you the most. All of this guide will be available as a guide on speedrun.com with maybe other tutorials and stuff to complete it even more. So I play only on the PC version of this game so far, with a PB at 1714, which is also the world record. So assuming you are a rather new Journey player, I don't recommend you jump head on into speedrunning. I would really advise you first have some fun with the game, like playing with companions, maybe let them take you to visit Out of Bounds a few times, and start learning fancy flying a bit on your own or with a friend, I don't know, because it will really make your speedrun practice much easier if you have all the basic knowledge of the game. It's okay if you start fancy flying by speedrunning, but it will take you a bit more time. I would recommend you practice offline when speedrunning, because if you connect to a companion it can mess up your run. For example, if they release a goo in tower level. So yeah, on Steam you launch Steam in offline mode, PS4 you can switch it offline too. Only if you are streaming at the same time as playing, without a capture card on PS4 you cannot play offline. But otherwise, yeah, please do, unless you are okay with playing with a companion after you connect with them. We'll be playing the any person category, but as you may know, the Scarfless category is very alike. Basically, it's the same route. The main difference is it's more difficult to recover from mistakes you do, because you are most likely to end up Scarfless at one point or another. So maybe it would be better for you to start as any percent only, but a few runners choose anyway to start Scarfless, like I did, Bradgel or Rob's the Dude. So yeah, you do what you would prefer. Regarding how to approach the speedrun aspect of the game, I see two kinds of players. The ones who do a lot of full runs of the game again and again until they get a new PB, and the ones like me who would rather spend a few days working on individual levels or very specific tricks until they are sure they got better at it, and then I do a full run. I try for like 2-3 hours max. And usually it's not much of a problem to get a new PB because I've gotten better at everything. And then I do a pause for like, I don't know, 1 week up to 2-3 months sometimes. And then when I feel like speedrunning again, I do it all over again, practicing individual levels, trying to see where I can get better. So depending on your personality, you may choose one approach or the other. Maybe mine is a bit more frustrating, because you don't do a lot of full runs, but on the other hand, doing many full runs and never getting a PB can be also frustrating. So yeah, it depends on how you envision your practice. The idea is that you try to not get overwhelmed. Do not hesitate to pause the speedrun practice for a little while and come back at it later. It's important, I believe, to take some breaks. Now I'd like to tell you a bit about the different platforms you can play the game on. The speedrun is more or less the same on every versions, but there are some main differences still, which I will mention. I learned the speedrun by watching PS4 runs, although I was playing on PC because there was just no PC runs back then, and by watching closely Bradgel's run mostly, the legendary Scarfless run, which was a world record for like 5 years. And so yeah, it's very comparable because I managed to do everything that I could do on PS4 on the PC version. So you have no crossplay on PC between Steam version and Epic Games, like you cannot connect between players because they are two separate versions. Then you get PS3, PS4, which is the same as PS5 version, and you have also iOS. Now regarding the camera speed in the game, I think this is the main difference between PS versions and PC or iOS, because the camera can move fast horizontally or vertically on the PS versions, but it's very slow diagonally, so whenever you move diagonally with the right stick. While on PC and iOS, it's as fast in any directions. So this will make a few differences when fancy flying. For example, if you go from a dive to a reverse dive and you turn the camera around, on PS4 or PS3 you will have a tendency to first turn the camera sideways and then you flick it back up. While on PC I do both at the same time, I move diagonally, so it's a little bit easier. So this is still quite a small difference, but it does make a different experience of the whole fancy flying aspect of the game. And when players like Pexa switch from PS4 to PC, it definitely needs some time to get used to it again. The PS versions of the game have something called Sixaxis, which is basically by moving the controller around you can move the camera. And this is quite a problem for speedrunning and fancy flying in general, because you will have to learn to keep your controller still, and since it can easily mess up the camera when you are close to the sand. Basically, whenever the camera is close to the sand, it really wants to flatten so you can look at what lies ahead of you. And if you do any input to the camera at this moment, up or down, the camera will flatten. So it's really easy to mess up because of it. So keep this thing in mind on PS versions. So on PC you can play with a controller, which I recommend, it's what I do. Or you can play with a keyboard and mouse, or just keyboard only. So the main difference is when you play with a mouse, it's really fast. You could get dizzy quite fast, and it's a good thing to do some camera transitions really fast. But on the other hand, the main problem is whenever you are close to the sand, it's very hard to keep the camera aimed to the ground, and it's complicated to get a huge boost. When you play with a keyboard only, you can flick with the arrow keys left and right like this, like I would on a controller left and right for a Dropshoot, to keep the camera down, so it still works. If I were to play with keyboard and mouse, I would actually switch from the mouse to keyboard only for the sections where I try to get powerful boosts with a Dropshoot. But you do what you want. Now the other main difference with keyboard and mouse, keyboard only, is that you cannot press only lightly a left stick forward, and the result is you cannot do techniques like slow boosting, which we will use in the last level of the speedrun, and instead you will have to stick to something else like a reverse charge boost, which is a bit slower, but I think it should still be possible to do very good speedruns with a keyboard only or keyboard and mouse, whatever you prefer. If you play on iOS, I would really recommend you take a controller, because playing with the default control is kind of suicidal, and yeah, I don't recommend this. Don't do it, children, it's dangerous for your mental health. Concerning loading times, PS3 is the slowest and arguably PC is the fastest, depending on your setup. But it depends. So far we don't use in-game time, but only real time to measure the speedrun. So we include loading times, but maybe in the future we won't anymore. If you want to get an idea, on my PC runs, I am about 10 seconds faster than the PS4, about 7 seconds faster than the PS4 with an SSD, and 3 seconds faster than the PS5. PS3 is a lot slower, I guess, I'm not sure. But PC loading times can vary quite easily. Each version of the game has its own unique set of glitches, visual differences, and also sound quality differences. So it doesn't impact at all the speedrunning aspect of the game, but I thought I would mention a few still. So on PS3 you got motion blur, you have the normal sun texture, which is replaced by a ball of light on the other versions for some reason. You can have Shadowlands to visit in out-of-bounds areas. Overall, it's arguably the best version visually, because and sound quality wise as well. But yeah, it's only 720p. The PS4 part of the game is quite similar to PS3, but we lost the motion blur, got a different sun texture. The sound is less sparkly maybe, it has a different look overall. It's full HD this time, and we got a whole lot of unique glitches this time. To mention a few, we got for example infinite flight glitch, black cloth, low frame rate glitch, Zim cloak, sky painting. You can wiki all of these to to see what it is. Now the PC version, the part is a bit less well executed, especially regarding the sound, which is broken. For example, you cannot hear companion music when you're connected to one, so you can use a mod to have companion music on all the time, like I am using right now. But otherwise, you are bound to only listen to solo music, sadly. And yeah, a few sounds are not sounding really great, especially the chirps. The good thing about PC is you can customize the sparkles like I did, as you see. Otherwise on PC, for unique glitches, we have the Disco Wayfarer, we can have black sky in out-of-bounds areas. We also got another form of the infinite flight glitch with a twin connected to yourself. Now another big difference between most versions is the frame rate, or FPS. With higher FPS, the game looks more smooth when you play it, and it feels a bit more responsive to your inputs. But having too much FPS is a problem for speedrun. On the PS3 version there was only 30 FPS, and what this does is it makes it easier to clip out of bounds on a few specific out-of-bounds. There is one in Chapter Select and the one we use in Sunken City for the speedrun, which are very easy and quite hard on PS4, PC or anything else. You also got a unique glitch you can do on the PS3 version due to the low frame rate, which happens at the end of Sunken City. You can cross the ending gate from the front instead of the back and go through it due to low frame rate. And you can watch Azama's PS3 speedrun if you want to see it. It should be possible on PC with a low FPS too, I guess. So another thing low frame rate helps with is drop shooting. As I have mentioned earlier, we do flick the camera stick left and right when we run on the sand. And when I started speedrunning, I was playing at 120 FPS. And flicking was harder. I had to flick more often, maybe a little faster too, to maintain the camera down. So the difference isn't that huge, but I definitely felt a difference when I lowered my FPS for the Sunken City out-of-bounds entrance. So if you play on PC, I would recommend you lower to like 60 FPS or maybe even a little lower. The reason why I play at only 65 FPS is because I was trying to copy what PS4 runners were doing, and visually it looked to me like at 60 FPS I wasn't getting the out-of-bounds entrance, while I was doing exactly the same thing as PS4 players sometimes, while at about 50-55 it felt as hard. You will see it all in the Sunken City level tutorial. Something else Framerate does is when it's too high, above 100, you will see the cloak from the Wayfarer moving way too fast. I don't like it, it's ugly. And carpet creatures will tend to move crazily, doing big loops and everything. Journey wasn't meant to be played with over 100 FPS, so I don't think it's a good idea. So on the PC version, if you want to lower your frame rate, you can either play with VSync on, which will cap the max frame rate of the game according to your monitor's refresh rate. So if it's higher than 60 Hz, you will have to... it won't work because it will still be too high. So what you should do is what I did. I instead disabled VSync. I don't like VSync anyway, so I always switch it off. It causes me visual problems on my screens usually. So I would go to the desktop, right click it, go to NVIDIA control panels. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, I guess you have something equivalent for AMD. Then go into 3D settings. You can select Journey in the software settings. and then select 55 image per second, or 60 if you prefer, whatever. You are not allowed on PC to change your frame rate mid-run with another software, so just select the maximum frame rate like I did and stick to it. I don't know much about iOS, but I heard it's quite similar to the PC regarding glitches, but you still got some unique ones, and it has you have the choice between 30, 60 and 120 FPS. So the speedrun practice in general is quicker to do on PC version, because you don't need to teleport to main menu and enter each level white circles. To teleport, you can instead go to main menu and click continue to re-enter a level, and on top, which is a bit faster, and on top of it you will keep the scarf length you had when you first entered the level. So this makes a lot of time gain when you practice. On PC you can also go to the main menu or chapter select during cutscenes, while on PS versions you have to wait for the cutscenes to end. If you are in Paradise level, when you click start you have an option to restart the level. On PS versions you have to go through Snow level all over again to practice Paradise again. You can also exit the credits on the PC version. And on top of it, of PC, if you're a bit of a hacker, you can use tools to monitor your boosting energy and stuff like this. I will use a few for demonstration of this tutorial, but it's not needed at all to practice, don't worry. So now we will be talking fancy flying, so I would like to make sure you understand this isn't a fancy flying tutorial. I will talk a lot about fancy flying, how to use it in specific portions of every levels, but it would be good if firsthand you watch a few tutorials or read the wiki. I personally worked a lot on the fancy flying wiki articles, so they are the techniques used for this speedrun category are more or less up to date, but they are very full and it's a lot of information. You can just watch video tutorials if you prefer. At the start of every video I will try to mention which techniques are used for it, so you are prepared for what's coming in the video. If you got any question regarding fancy flying, do not hesitate to ask the Journey community on Discord. They will gladly answer you and give you tips. So first thing to know for fancy flying practice is make sure you remap your buttons. You will want to use the shoulder buttons from your controller, because if you don't, it will be quite a problem for your thumb to reach the buttons on the right as well as the stick. So the idea is to keep the left thumb for left stick, right thumb for the right one, and me, I chirp with this button there, and I jump with this one, but you can do whatever you prefer. I will put in the guide a link for the wiki which explains how to remap your buttons on different platforms. So now I would like to tell you a bit about the different fancy flying techniques we will use for the whole speedrun. So I got an inverted right stick axis, by the way, both axes, so don't let it disturb you. I will list all these techniques on the guide, so you can just click them from there. So the first one to learn is called dive boost. It's the most easy technique. We will actually not use it at all for the speedrun, but start with it because it's very easy. You just aim the camera down like so, you push it down, you move forward, and you jump about every second like this. And when you empty the scarf, you move the left stick back towards you to boost, and you gain some height, as you can see. And you can also boost by aiming the camera up instead of aiming it down, which is better to aim at a precise location. Let's show it. So here I do my dive like this, and then I boost camera up. There you go. Once you know how to dive boost, you would need to learn how to charge boost. So this is it's not really a tutorial I'm doing, just showing you the different techniques so you understand what you need to be able to do. So this is a charge boost spot. There are a few in the games. It's places where you can dive in and charge energy against a wall by just holding the jump button. You can keep on pushing the camera down, by the way, to make sure it aims fully down. And after about 19 seconds you have charged the maximum energy you can get. If it's a good charge boost point, it depends on the camera angle. In some CB spots your camera will be quite flat and the boost can't be very good, but this one is a good one. So when you boost, you just move towards the camera like this, and you can gain a lot of height. So this is very useful for backup in the speedrun, if you fail something, it's also very useful as a more easier strats, because if you cannot reverse Dropshoot, for example, it's the other kind of technique we use to gain a lot of height. Another technique which is absolutely necessary is called Dropshoot. It's basically running on the sand very fast, like this, and then you can boost towards the camera like usual, to boost instantly and gain more height, or you can aim the camera up like I showed you, like this, but you see you waste a bit of the boost during the camera movement up, and then when you try to dive again, ideally you should dive again before you run out of boost. We will see all that in a pink desert level and a underground level. I have a full tutorial on Dropshoot, by the way, so I recommend you watch it. Another technique which is really useful for the whole speedrun aside from Dropshoot is called level boosting. The idea is to dive like a dive boost, but instead of the camera fully down, you keep it rather flat. This way you lose altitude more slowly during the dive, and you can boost higher because of it. And also you can travel longer distances because the camera is flatter. So it looks like this. First make sure you aim the camera fully down for like a second, and only then you flatten it, because you need to be pushing the camera down to start the dive. Like having it already down isn't enough. So you push it down and then you flatten it, and you start jumping at about every second, and then you can boost like for a dive boost towards the camera, or camera up like this, whatever. Now something else I'd like to tell you about is called flyer boosting, which is just when you are doing dive boost or level boost, for example, you can combine it with chirping at flyers. This is useful because it recharges your scarf and you can continue jumping for a longer dive, like this. It also lets you hover in the air when you are just after the chirp, so it's very convenient. Like here I don't need to jump and I hover in the air, and then I need to jump again and I can boost. A broken bridge is a really good level to practice flyer boosting, by the way, so you can go from flyers to flyers and alternate between boosting camera up and camera down. You can also do some Dropshoot if you don't have any flyers. Boosting towards the camera, just showing you a little example. Then here you try to release the chirp button when you are just going over the flyers. Like here I press and I release, jump. So yeah, it's really fun to do this in broken bridge level, and a good practice for the speedrun. So now the reverse Dropshoot. This is a technique that is really worth learning and mastering, although it can take you a bit of time. So if it's too hard for you, don't worry, with a charge boost you'll manage to get your first runs. So yeah, you have to charge energy with, for example, a Dropshoot or a dive, anything else, and then you have to push the camera up, and yeah, you can start chirping and charge energy in reverse. The thing is, the camera angle is much more stable in reverse than for a normal Dropshoot, and you can keep on pushing the camera up, while for a Dropshoot, if you do this, it will flatten. So that's why for a Dropshoot we need to flick, while for an RDS you can keep on aiming the camera up, and you have a constant camera angle and you charge a lot of energy. For the last level, Paradise, we will do another fancy flying technique called slow boosting. The idea is to do a dive boost or a level boost, and to have only a very light left stick pressure, like here. This way we don't lose a lot of altitude during the dive, and we can boost higher up. If you don't have a controller to play with, and you play on keyboard or keyboard and mouse, you will instead have to do another technique called the reverse charge boost. So it looks like this. Basically the idea is to go into a reverse dive, like this, and to charge energy against the wall itself. Okay, I'm not charging, there I am. Alright, so it's not a very easy technique either, but you will have to use it in Paradise, you'll see it there. Now I would like to tell you a bit about fancy flying theory. This is something I wish I had learned about earlier when practicing fancy flying, but I had no idea about all of this, so I had to figure it out, mostly. So you see on my screen I have a sort of boost power visualizer. This is something Pexa created. If you're interested in having fun with it, you can ask him. So I use it sometimes for practice purposes only, because obviously you don't want to use it for a speedrun. So I will use it on all of my videos for the tutorial. It will help you understand how fancy flying works and behaves, and see better what mistakes you can do and stuff like that. So something to understand about fancy flying is that whenever you got some boost energy, which is represented as the pink color on my screen, your camera will be moving faster. So if I move it up or down like this, you see it's quite fast. And as soon as I will run out of boost, it will be very slow again. See? So big difference of speed. So the idea is to always have some boost power remaining in order to control the camera better and move fast in the game. If you play with the mouse, I guess the mouse is very fast regardless. Another very important thing to understand regarding fancy flying is the camera angle defines how much boost you can get. The more it aims down, the more powerful the boost can be, or up, like this in reverse. But the camera angle, however, won't define how fast you charge your energy during the dive. So it can be either very flat or aimed quite a lot down. So with the boost power visualizer from Pexa, you can see the camera angle in degrees and the corresponding max boost power just written next to it. So as you can see, when I dive camera fully down, I get a 52-degree angle maximum with a 14.14 maximum boost, and in reverse I can get a 60-degree angle and the maximum boost is a 19.33. So this explains why a reverse dropshoot can be so powerful. So now if you wonder how long to dive to reach these maximum boosting values, the answer is 19 seconds for a camera fully down in a normal dive, and about 26 seconds in reverse due to the steeper camera angle. So for speedruns, since we want to travel fast, the idea is to try to dive with quite a flat camera angle, also to lose altitude only slowly during the dive when in the air. But it can be quite a problem because we would reach quite early a maximum boost limit. So if you want to dive for several seconds to cover some ground while still getting a good enough boost, the idea is to not aim the camera fully down nor too flat, but to choose something in between. And this also trying to aim the camera always a little more than needed, because it's safer this way. Because if you reach the maximum boost like this, you will lose a bit of boost. So nowadays, with a bit more experience, what I try to do is to follow the optimal diving curve. So basically start the dive with a really flat camera angle, and regularly during the dive I will give very small taps to the camera stick to aim it a little more down and keep on building up more boost power. It's a lot harder to optimize the level boost like this. It does require a lot of practice, but it's worth it in the end because you'll end up higher. So it would look a little like this. So basically I would push the camera very slowly down regularly like this during the dive. You can do one at every jump or even more often if you do very small taps. And then you boost camera up or down, and I always boost when I've done my last jump. Now regarding when to jump during a dive, I told you about every second earlier, but it actually depends on how long your scarf is and whether you plan to do a very long dive or a short one. If your dive is short, you can just hold the jump button down during the dive, who cares? This way you don't lose altitude fast, because every jump slows your falling speed down during the dive, therefore you can boost higher in the end. It doesn't help increasing the boost, jumping, it only slows you down vertically. So if the dive is long, the idea is to space the jumps as much as possible. For example, for a 4 seconds long dive with 4 jumps, you would jump at 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. If the dive lasts 8 seconds, you would jump at 2, 4, 6, 8 seconds, like I have just shown for the level boost actually. For a dropshoot, you can't aim the camera progressively more down during the dive, so the idea would be to estimate how powerful you need the boost to be, and you choose the camera angle accordingly before landing. and then you fight to keep the camera angle by flicking the camera stick left and right. There would be mostly two different approaches to drop shooting, the main one being traveling fast. So for it you would choose a camera angle quite flat, something like this. And the flicking can be quite chill, because you don't want to drop shoot for a long time. And so you boost after 2, 3, 4 seconds of drop shoot. You don't boost very high either, because you want to dive before you run out of boost. This way you keep on traveling fast. And it's easier to boost with the camera facing up for speed. But if for some reason you don't have you want to gain more height, it can be worth boosting with towards the camera like this to suddenly gain a little bit more height and be able to start off another dive still pretty quickly. And to get a powerful boost with the drop shoot, the idea is to land with the camera fully down. And when you do this, you would travel forward quite slowly because of the steep camera, and you'd have to flick the camera stick quite fast left and right to maintain this camera angle. It's very hard. I'll talk more about this in snow level actually. And you see you can get a very powerful boost like this. When you chirp at flyers to recharge the scarf, you don't have to hold the jump button down. You can if you want, it doesn't matter. But if you don't, the flyers will make you glide anyway, and you won't lose any altitude. Have a look here. See? And I end up with the full scarf. So if it helps you making sure you keep a full scarf after the chirp, avoid jumping at this moment. If you take a symbol, you can hold the jump button down when they recharge you, because they won't make you hover like flyers. By holding jump it has the same effect, and since it will recharge more than your full scarf length, you can still end up with a full scarf after holding jump a few seconds. So now I would like to tell you a bit about the left stick. If you read a bit the wiki, you may have noticed a bit everywhere it's mentioned to keep a left stick fully forward. And this is because if I press my left stick slightly sideways like this, you see the cyan bar on the graph here, it lowers, and the max boost depends on this cyan bar. So basically the more the left stick is pressed sideways, the lower, the less energy I can charge. Let's get into this charge boost spot to explain you better. So here if I press the left stick sideways, you see the maximum boost, it gets reduced. Oops. So here it's fully forward, sideways, sideways. And you see, I cannot charge more energy than the cyan color. Okay. So for this reason, yeah, we always strive for a drop shoot to turn with the camera only, because it can lead to mistake. So it depends on the camera angle as well, because if your camera angle is quite flat, doing a left stick mistake but by having it sideways like this is terrible. You see, you will very quickly reach the maximum boost energy. Well, if the camera aims fully down, it's fine, you can still keep on charging for a bit. So keep this in mind, and only for fancy flying techniques where you start with the camera fully down or fully up, and you can allow yourself to dive with the left stick a bit sideways. For example, a reverse drop shoot, once your camera is fully up. So now, to turn more easily, it's fine actually to turn with the sideways left stick like this, because you won't reach the maximum energy, but if the camera flattens like here, you will lose some charge. Another thing this cyan bar shows is how the left stick pressure modifies the maximum boost you can get. Because if I move slowly forward like this, you see, and fully forward, it varies. And this is because it shows how a flap boost pressure lowers the max boost. Flap boost is a technique we won't use for the speedrun, so don't bother with it. It looks like this. It's a pressure even lighter than the one we use for a flap boost or a slow drop shoot. And as you see here, I cannot go over the cyan color. The boost power thingy from Pexa here doesn't work correctly for slow boost pressure because it will show that the maximum boost is lowered here, although it isn't. I can definitely go beyond the cyan bar like I just did. I won't do any slow boosting in any level but Paradise level, so when I will be speedrunning Paradise level I won't show this cyan bar because it will show mistakes only. And I will keep it in other levels. This way you can see, if I press my left stick sideways sometimes, you can see how it impacts the maximum boost. So if you want to know more about flap boost, just have a look at the flap boost wiki article, where I explain the differences between slow and flap boost in detail. For the speedrun in Paradise level, we want to gain quite a lot of height with the slow boost, so you'll have to avoid using a flap boost pressure. But don't you worry, it's actually harder to do flap boosting in Paradise because the left stick pressure range is bigger for the slow boost in there. And what this does is it actually makes it easier to adjust very precisely whatever pressure you want. Usually for a slow boost we want it to be as slight as possible in order to lose altitude as slowly as we can. But if flyers are quite distant, you can press it a little more forward to reach them more easily and stuff like this. To make sure you have a slow boost pressure and not a flap boost one, just look very carefully at the Wayfarer's body position angle. If he's quite vertical like this, it's a flap boost, and if he's quite horizontal, maybe head slightly under the feet, it's a good slow boost posture. So flap boost looks like this. And usually the rope will spread open when you jump, while a slow boost, it looks more like this. You can see the difference. Learn to recognize it, it's important. So I'll finish this fancy flying theory section by saying all the FF techniques can combine quite well, but you need to make sure your camera aims still enough down after charging for a while, because it would make no sense to flatten it too much like this. You would start losing boost power instead. And also remember, the flap boost has to be performed first because it has a low max boost power value. So now I would like to tell you about a little advantage you can get when speedrunning regarding the scarf length. I will use Cheat Engine to show you the scarf flying power value. And first thing to understand is the default scarf length is 10 in white and it's 4 in red. So every time you jump in the game it consumes 4 scarf symbol, whether you're white or red. However, if you're a white robe, if you jump starting from the ground, it will consume only 3. So if I do this, it consumes 3. If I'm in the air, like here, it consumes 4. And if I am sliding, it consumes 4 as well, like this. After you have launched the game, the first symbol you will take will grant you 2 more scarf symbols. So here I would end up with 12 symbols. And the next symbol I will take will only grant me a +1 scarf. And then the third symbol will be a +2, +1, +2. It always alternates like this. So it's actually an advantage to start the run with a +2 symbol, because it can give you a better jumping ability. So for example here, if I jump, the first one will consume 3, so 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I got a 12th jump. So if I were to restart the level, and now I would collect a +1 symbol first, and then I would have only 3 jumps. Because you can see my scarf value, it's only 11. Now, so 1, 2, 3, and no 4th jump. Finishing a level, loading one from chapter select portals, or going to main menu and press continue won't affect the order of +1 or +2 symbols. So the advantage of scarf is only significant when you got an odd number of symbols collected. Because whenever you got an even number, collecting +1 and +2 is the same as collecting +2 and +1 scarf energy. So I was completely unaware of all this scarf theory until very recently, so it's proof you can just choose to ignore it and still get good times. So the reason why it's an advantage to start off with a +2 symbol is because for Dropshoot, whenever we lift off the ground, we try to keep as much scarf charge as we can. For this, we try to lift off at the end of a jumping animation from the Wayfarer. To show you an example, it would be like this: jump, 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 boost. See, this is the best timing to lift off after a jump. And you saw here, I only wasted 1 scarf charge. I got 10 now. I had 11 in total, as you can see now, 11. And it's sometimes you won't manage to only waste 1 jump when lifting off after the drop shoot. You will waste 2 or even 3, 4 if you're really bad. And getting this bonus scarf energy can really help you gain 1 more jump in the air. This happens to me in snow level. I can have 4 jumps in the air if I waste 1 or 2 scarf charge. While if I were to start off with a +1 symbol, I could only allow myself to lose 1 charge, so it would mean a perfect lift to get 4 jumps. And having 4 jumps allows to gain more height with the upcoming level boost just after. Truth be told, it's especially for red robe speedruns, this scarf mechanic is useful to consider. So I know this isn't a red robe speedrun tutorial, but since we are talking about scarf, I will mention it anyway. So in red, to know if you got a +2 or +1 symbol last, you can count the scarf itself from chapter select. Have a look at it growing. You can see 2 symbols now, and there we can see 3, 4. We can see 4. So this was a +2 symbol. You can see only 3 if it's a +1 symbol. So the reason why it matters so much in red is because it can actually give you 1 more jump upon entering a level sometimes, and it really makes all the difference. So there is a glitch we can do for all symbols, speedruns, white or red, or any % red. So when you collect a symbol, it takes a bit of time for the game to register you've collected one, as you can see now. And here now I got 6. So the idea is, if you are fast enough to collect a second symbol before the first symbol got saved, you can transform the scarf value of the first symbol. So here, the first symbol I collect should be a +2 symbol, and the second one a +1. But if I am very fast to collect them both, you'll see what happens. Wait for it, and there you see, I got only 6 scarf charge, while I should have 7. This is because the first symbol got a scarf value corresponding to the second symbol. So in the end I got 2 +1 symbols in a row. So for white robe any %, you want to have a first symbol with a value of +2, but for red robe speedruns or all symbols white if you're fast, you want instead to have a first symbol with a scarf value of +1, because it can transform into a +2 symbol if you are quick enough. So now I'll show it again, but this time the first symbol should have a scarf value of +1, because I collected a +2 last. And now I end up with 8 scarf charge. So this is what we want for red robe speedruns. So I must warn you, you must be extremely fast for this glitch to work, because if you jump to the symbol directly like this and then start a dive, you are most likely to not be fast enough. So here I wasn't. You see I got 7 symbols. Even though I flattened the camera to travel faster, it wasn't enough. So the idea is to start the dive before even collecting the first symbol. So for this you jump off the ledge just in front of it and you dive here. If you dive before you collect the symbol, you can be fast enough. So now you can refer to this chart to see whatever advantage you can get in red robe runs depending on the symbols you collect. The bold numbers represent whenever you get a bonus jump. In white I didn't put any bold numbers because it depends on how much scarf you managed to save after the drop shoot, or whether you started jumping from the ground when sliding or when being in the air. What you see right now is called Journish. It's a mod of Journey created by Alex. You can find it on the Discord in the Filthy Hacks channel in the pins. To download it on PC, and the thing is you play a shooting star and you can actually connect to other players, and what this game shows is the collision of every object. So this is very useful to practice speedrun, because well, it allows you to see what you cannot see normally, and there is also a button to toggle on and off the triggers. So for example, if you're at the start of Sunken City, you are wondering about where you need to go to get grabbed by the carpet here, you can go there and see, you see this little box in front of me? This corresponds to where you need to be to get grabbed by the carpet. So now you know. You can actually go just on the edge here and get grabbed by the carpet. And yeah, you can see what out of bounds exit look like. For example, in BB you can see Head Bunker's cave entrance. You can see what the trigger looks like at the end of tower from out of bounds side. And yeah, so I recommend you have a look at it if you're interested. Now there is another thing I may be using from time to time, which is this. I call it the Tron shader from the movie, and it's something that works with reshade, and I use it because if I teleport to chapter select, like here, you can see me move during the fade in and fade out. So maybe I will use it in tower level and chapter select so you can see what it looks like when I move in the black screen. And you can download it too. I will put a link on the guide if you're interested in having this. There is actually a speedrun category called Tron % on the leaderboard in category extensions, so it's pretty cool. If you practice speedrun, you may want to start using splits. For this, I personally use a live split, so it's you don't have to use it if you don't like it. Some players can get stressed with a timer, so you can just retime your runs afterwards if you prefer, or just not use the split, but just a basic timer, start and stop at the end of the run. So I will just show you whatever setting as I use this way. If you have never installed it beforehand, you can get started quickly. So if you right click it, edit splits, we start the timer at 1 minute 20. This is because we skip the intro scene when we teleport to chapter select, so it accounts for the estimated time on PS3 to watch the cutscene and go to CS, but we keep 1 minute 20 for all platforms regardless, even if it's faster on PC. You make sure you have one row per level, you name your splits as you like. Some players choose to split between levels, like as soon as the screen is fully white or black. Personally, I like to split on the very first frame I see something visible on the screen, and I try to react as fast as I can. This is because if I were to restart a level, like on PC, go to main menu, I press continue to restart it, I could just start the timer on the first frame of the level I see. And it's easier to compare between platforms too, because it doesn't include a loading time at the start, while if you split, while some other players do on the start of the loading screen at the end of the level, it counts the whole loading time. So I don't think it's a good idea, but you do what you want. When you die in snow level, some players split the moment the wayfarer lies dead face on the snow. But on PC, since you can restart the level, you won't see the little guy die a second time. So instead I prefer to split the moment I arrive actually in Paradise, so after the vortex scene. But you can split before the guy jumps in the vortex if you prefer, whatever. Now we can close this, and I'll right click. If we go to edit layout, here is where you can select what appears on the split files. So me, I choose the title, the splits. You can add them here. You have a lot of things you can add in whatever order. So oops, what did I do? Yeah, splits here. So title, splits, detail timer. It's to see the full time from start to finish of the run plus the time in the current level. So you can use the other timer, which shows only the time for the full run if you prefer. And then sum of best or whatever else you would prefer to see. And then if you click layout settings, in there you can put an image in the background if you want, or just choose whatever color, and with chroma key filter you can make the background transparent in OBS or something else. Then you choose your colors. So you can see whatever buttons I clicked. I did it once, I don't want to do it again. So yeah, just show you whatever I clicked. Here you can see what I clicked. there if you want to copy. Here you can compare two different things. I compare to what felt right for me, but you can select other stuff. Detailed timer. I let you copy. And sum of best. There you go. And that's it. Also, you can select which buttons you use to split. So I like to split with my controller. So for this, I go into settings after a right click. So here, the only buttons I use is start split, reset, undo split, and skip split. So to split or start my run, my timer, I use X, which I press the moment I press A to start the run on a new journey, or to teleport to chapter select. Then if I did a split by mistake, I press Y to undo it. If I want to skip a split, I put this button here. And if I want to reset the timer to 0, I press this one. And that's it, you're ready to run. It was a lot of info. I hope it wasn't too much of a burden to watch it all, but now you can get started with individual levels tutorial. And see you then. Bye.